Now, this video is about a he's a Russian Jew who migrated to Europe, who calls himself a comedian, and he's a Zionist, and he has that YouTube show called what is it, Chickenology or Trigonology, whatever, with that Lebanese, half white, homo, and this is him, and he thinks, because he's an immigrant to Europe, now he's in the position to say that the dangers of Europe comes from Muslims and Islam, is Islam compatible with humanity? He's acting like Islam is someplace in the dark ages. 1, 2, 3. His whole shtick right now, he did an editorial, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. We're gonna watch it together. His whole idea is that he's trying to clickbait, and he needs the usual suspects. So what I'm gonna do is, since there's a lot of issue with problems with Pakistanis and British and the British economy, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna talk about Islam and how dangerous Islam is to Europe. And first of all, Sharia law, whatever the fuck I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know if he's been to Dubai or Saudi Arabia or Qatar. These people are living like New York City. Let's watch this douchebag. Here you go.
Islam, a religion of peace. Lessons from Uzbekistan.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask this mother. Let me see. You know what? 1, 2, 3. So Constantine here, I told you, is a Russian Jew who migrated to Britain when he was 11 years old. So he's not in no position to decide who comes to Europe, who doesn't. You understand? Imagine if I did 11-minute editorial that the danger of Jews in Europe, how they're taking over the banks, how they are suffocating all the political movements, all the political parties, and how they're buying, their lobbying groups are buying, just normal stuff that's happening in Europe. I would be chased out of town. I would be called an anti-Semite, anti-Semitism tropes. They could do, but he wants to go in there and just walk the line. Let's see what he has to say. By the way, I looked it up. In the last 5 years, since 2019, maybe 9 incidents that has to do with terrorism that are related to Muslims. About 2 or 3 people died. There are more people who died from homegrown left-wing nut jobs in Europe or right-wing in Europe. Let's see. Wow, here we go. He actually went there.
Western Europe has been engaged in a raging debate about mass immigration for at least a decade.
Yep.
If you accepted the statement I just made without objection, you have, like most people, swallowed what is at best a polite fiction and at worst a deliberate misframing of the problem.
Yeah.
The claim that the debate is about mass immigration is fraudulent on at least 2 levels. First, while we argue about stopping illegal immigration...
First of all, why are you a preferred immigrant? Why? And I want you to notice about this guy, he always put a lot of light. He wants to look as... He has this issue with his dark. He's very dark. He looks more dark than me. I'm fucking beautiful. So when you watch his show, he puts a lot of makeup. And you always put a light where his face will be lighter and will look more whiter, because his audience is mostly white, young men who are against woke culture. The same thing he has as David has, the same audience or the same thinking audience he has. Now, he knows I'm going to go to the lower hanging fruit. I'm going to go today do a show about Islam and how dangerous it is in Europe. While Muslims been there for centuries. They fought in World War I for Britain. They fought in World War II for Britain. They fought in every war, and they worked for Europe. They were colonized by the English. So what the fuck are you talking about? Oh.
And keeping legal immigration manageable, the reality is that the concerns most people have are not about the future or even the present. They're about the past. Dig even slightly under the surface of anti-immigration sentiment, and you will discover that the core concern for many is not what might happen, but what has already happened. In other words, the debate is not about mass immigration, but about the impact of the immigration that occurred not only in recent years, but sometimes in decades past. Second, the great unsayable in polite society is that not all immigrants are the same. Britain, for example, experienced a wave of Polish and Romanian immigration in the 2000s. Since 2022, millions of Ukrainians fleeing Putin's invasion have been given refuge across the continent. Hundreds of thousands of Hong Kongers have escaped the Chinese Communist Party's crackdown by coming here too. Scour as you might, you will struggle to find any anti-Polish sentiment beyond the very fringes of our societies. There is no need for a debate about preventing societal discrimination against Ukrainians, because no such discrimination exists. Hong Kongers appear to be doing just fine. The rise of anti-immigration parties across Europe is not a response to mass immigration per se. It's a response to the importation of large numbers of people from what even the bravest of our politicians euphemistically call incompatible cultures.
Okay, let me tell you what the incompatible cultures are. In Britain, 20% of doctors or specialists are Muslims. They only represent 6% of the population. These are in the NIH healthcare who declare their faith. Some of them don't even declare it. 12% of British dentists are Muslims. From a population that only makes 6%. There are a lot of professional people in Europe, and they do a lot of good if they're part of the NIH system, if they're doctors and dentists and nurses. And they are, this guy is just talking out of his ass. He had nothing to talk about. He wants to look like he's doing these editorial thing with the lamb and behind him. He's got the looks all right.
To them, the problem is not immigration, it's Islam. There are three broad schools of thought on this issue.
The camera goes.
The progressive response is the head in the sand mantra of diversity is our greatest strength. Yeah. The slogan, mindlessly repeated, is a proxy for a whole host of dishonesties.
Rothschild!
First, and for as long as possible, they will pretend that there is no problem. When Islamist terrorism is discussed, they will immediately try to...
Look it up. Only 2 such incidents happened in 2023. And since 2019, maybe 9 incidents or 10 incidents. There is no problem. This is a problem. This is a solution looking for a problem. He had nothing to do that day. He needed something. He needed content. I'm going to go to the Muslims and just talk about them because anti-Islamic sentiments are very high right now in Europe. Good.
Contextualize the debate by talking about far-right violence and other threats. Their concerns are not incorrect in that the far right does have a violent fringe, and our police and security services must remain vigilant in dealing with it. But the fact remains, 75% of MI5's caseload involves Islamist terrorism, with over 90% of the 43,000 people on MI5's
2,000 Muslims. If I told you, go look up the word demographic unit in New York. In New York, from 2001 to 2013, there was a unit, a police unit that spied on all Muslims in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. They used to go to mosques and pray. They used to go to Arab restaurants. They dealt with Arabs. They didn't even find one guy or person did any problem. So it doesn't mean if you're being harassed and monitored by a spy agency, it doesn't mean you're a criminal. It doesn't mean that. So you're throwing all these percentages, 75% out of what? Out of 10 cases? Out of 10? How many cases was there? Good.
Extremists. To understand this in its actual context, consider that only 6% of people in Britain are Muslim. In other words, Islamist extremism is not only a huge problem, it's a disproportionately huge problem. Western Europe has been engaged in such discrimination exists. Hong Kongers appear. The progressive response involves Islamist terrorism, with over 90% of the 43,000 people on MI5's terror watch list being Islamist extremists. To understand this in its actual context, consider that only 6% of people in Britain are Muslim. In other words, Islamist extremism is not only a huge problem, it's a disproportionately huge problem. Second,
there is no, come on, I don't know how to pronounce it, disproportionately problem. No, it's not. I just told you 2 cases happened in 23 to 24. Some idiot probably was homegrown anyway. So you're just up there talking out of your ass, my friend. I find it unbelievable. All these Zionist and Jewish accounts are working overnight to demonize Muslim in Western Europe and Western society. They see us as a threat by being citizens of the same countries they've been in. We are good citizens. We pay our taxes. We're good. We raise our kids right. We have family values. You know, actually, we have more in common with conservative Western society than liberal society.
Once people who hold this view are forced to confront some measure of reality and accept the problem exists, they will pivot to blaming causes like poverty, discrimination, alienation, and so on. They will ignore the fact of migration for at least a decade. If you accept, and for as long as possible, they will pretend that there is no problem. When Islamist terrorism is discussed, they will immediately try to contextualize the debate by talking about far-right violence and other threats. Their concerns are not incorrect, and in some ways equal an opposite school of thought. According to this perspective, the problem is not Islamism, it's Islam itself. And naturally, this group is diverse and not easily quantified. Some are ex-Muslims or those who have dealt with the reality of Islamist extremism and violence, like Gad Saad, who says, there is no radical Islam, there's simply Islam. This is
that's another Zionist douchebag. I have a video of him making up all these lies on Joe Rogan. Both these assholes been on Joe Rogan, and he's using as a source a racist, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim scumbag in Canada called Assad, whatever his name is, who's a scumbag just like him, who work day and night to demonize Muslims and Arabs who live in Western society. I've been in America my whole life, my friend, and we are very good people. We don't bother nobody. As a matter of fact, we are very successful people. We are very successful people in America. Thank you.
Evidently also the view of Islamists themselves. They claim that there is only one way to be a Muslim, which is to seek to impose Islamic values on the whole world, introduce Sharia, and subjugate non-believers.
I wonder where are the Muslim armies banging in with Europe? Let's say how many air bases there are of Muslim countries in European countries. Who've been getting bombed for the last 30 years? Iraq was bombed and lost 1 million people under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction. Afghanistan was in a war for 20 years. And now they want to bomb Iran. Now they're killing his brothers and sisters there in Israel. The Jews, the Zionists, are killed more than 75,000 Palestinians. But the problem is Islam. That's the problem. Because they want you to become a Muslim. How many missionaries are there in Western countries?
Believers and those of other faiths. If you think I'm exaggerating their intentions, you probably haven't read enough Islamist literature, such as this. Well, this.
So somebody wrote a book. Who gives a fuck? Who are these people? They don't represent 1.5 billion people or 2 billion people.
To this camp, the fact that most Muslims are decent, peaceful people is irrelevant because to this view, they are so in spite of the teachings of.
I don't need you to bear witness how decent I am, you fucking piece of shit, you filthy animals, you hateful Zionist scumbags. You'll do anything to cover for Israel and its genocidal behavior. Those are your people who are killing children, not my people, okay? We haven't killed people in like 100 years, okay? As a matter of fact, most of ISIS, all those were intelligence operation, Western intelligence operation, they set it up, and most of the victims were Muslims. They were killing Muslims.
Their religion. Furthermore, many will argue that some moderate Muslims are only moderate in the sense that they're unwilling to engage in acts of extremism, but support and excuse those who do. As evidence, they will cite worrying surveys such as this one suggesting that British Muslims are more likely to view Hamas positively than negatively. It goes without saying that hiding amongst honest critics of the doctrines of Islam are garden variety bigots who simply hate Muslims for being different, foreign and alien. But this does not mean that believing the doctrines of Islam are liable to produce violence and oppression makes you a bigot, despite what those in the first camp would like you to believe. The problem I've always had with this argument, though, is that there are many countries around the world which are majority Muslim, and some with large Muslim minorities like Singapore, which appear to have dealt with Islamist extremism far better than we have in Western Europe. I saw this myself in Uzbekistan, where I lived between 80.
Mind you, Uzbekistan is a fucking former Russian country who were mostly atheists. I don't know how he came to that conclusion. He probably went back home to see his whole old country of Russia.
And 1990, and again when I returned there last week. This is why, while remaining open-minded to different perspectives and claiming no expertise, I lean towards the third camp, people who believe that religious extremism is a problem which has a tried and tested solution. My latest trip to Uzbekistan is a case in point. Islam is everywhere. The most prominent contemporary and historical buildings are mosques and madrasas.
Wow.
It is not uncommon to be awakened in your hotel at 5 a.m. by the Islamic call to
Oh
prayer.
my gosh.
Many men wear skull caps called tibitekas, while women
that's
dress
a problem
modestly.
for us.
Some sport headscarves and traditional outfits which cover the full length of their arms and legs.
Uh-oh.
Popular boys' names here include Muhammad, Mustafa, Ali, Muslim, Abdullah, and Ibrahim.
Is it me or this motherfucker is an Islamophobe? This whole segment has not made any sense. Since we don't know what's he's projecting. What is the objective of this whole video? We don't know. I already told you that Muslims do represent 6% of the population in Britain, but represent almost 20 to 25% of doctors, 12% of dentists. They are professional people who work hard and keep it moving.
The country's first president after the fall of the Soviet Union was called Islam Karimov. But
Okay.
not Islam is everywhere too. Alcohol is sold in shops and many restaurants, not just for foreigners, but for anyone who wants to buy it. Many, and I would say most, girls and women wear jeans, trousers, knee-length skirts, and other secular clothing, especially in the cities. I saw a woman in one of those black bags, one woman tells us in a disapproving tone. You could see her face, but that was it. This is not our way. Traditional Uzbek women's attire is a kaleidoscope of colors and does not cover a woman's hair.
Okay.
What about them, I ask, pointing to a gaggle of young women in hijabs. That's not ours either. They brought that crap here from Turkey, she says with a dismissive wave of the hand. The only place you'll find veils in Uzbekistan is museums. Burqas are banned in public places. Don't get me wrong, this isn't Venice Beach. You won't see crop tops, bikinis, and vulva-hugging leggings here. But neither will you see those in Armenia, a Christian country not far from Uzbekistan, where I spend a lot of time. It's a traditional society thing, not a Muslim thing.
Oh, gosh.
Tourists wearing summer dresses, shorts, skirts, and other less conservative attire are safe and treated with respect. The few churches and synagogues you'll find in Uzbekistan are protected and well-maintained. Most Christians and Jews have left.
So far, I have not learned anything what he's trying to say. All he's saying is crazy shit, that Islam's the problem. And he went to a Muslim country called Uzbekistan, and he saw people selling drinks and alcohol, people getting drunk, and people living their life. So what's the problem here? Where's the problem?
For America, Europe, or Israel, but not because of persecution or oppression. When the USSR collapsed, opportunities for the well-educated dried up, and they left in search of a better life, as many did from non-Muslim Soviet countries too. I'm an Armenian, our driver tells us. I've lived here since 1994. We have no ethnic issues here.
See?
At Easter, my Muslim friends come to my house to celebrate with me. For their holidays, I go round to theirs.
So what's the problem here? Why are you making this video? Everybody's living happy except you.
At every opportunity, I broach the subject of extremism with what turns out to be unnecessary sensitivity. There is no serious problem with radical Islam here because the people in charge understand the threat and are prepared to deal with it. It's simple. If you want to pray, go for it. If you want to cover your hair, that's your choice. I don't do either, a guide tells us. The rules are clear. You can do what you want, but if you want to work for the government, you can't wear a headscarf and the men must shave their beards, she adds. My obvious joke about hipsters gets the polite smile it deserves. It seems that particular trend has yet to reach Uzbekistan. Later, we're told about a father who sent his daughter to school with her hair covered. He got a big fine. As the conversation winds on, I learn something relevant and important for us here in Europe. I'm a Muslim, a woman in a cafe tells me, her face filled with worry. What's happening in Afghanistan? It's crazy. They are our neighbors, and we do not want that here. I consider lightening the mood by accusing her of Islamophobia, but decide against it. To women here, this is no laughing matter. Their Afghan sisters across the border are forced to cover themselves from head to toe, denied access to work and education, and can only travel.
And those are extreme son of a bitches who do not represent the actual teaching of Islam. Islam advocates for the education of men, women, the same way. yes, they want separate classroom. They don't want their girls to walk around naked. They don't want their girls to walk around in bikinis. They don't want their kids to say they don't want to see their boys being taught that they're not boys but women, and they don't want to see their daughters say they're not females but males. They don't want none of that culture that you represent. That's what you represent, my friend. You represent everything that is wrong and decadence in societies.
Travel outside the home with a male chaperone. She recounts a story of some Islamists who were let out of prison in Uzbekistan.
Right.
They started some trouble, but thank God our security services dealt
How could they be Islamists if they're criminals?
with them. You cannot let extremists flourish. From your lips to God's ears, I think to myself. Perhaps one day we in the West will have leaders with the courage to understand such simple realities as well.
All right, go fuck yourself. That shit didn't make no. Did that make sense to you? That did not make sense to me. I didn't even know what was the objective of the whole video. Islam is bad, but it's good. But it's good is bad. Wearing that hijab, covering your hair is a problem. Let me tell you, my friend, what we have. This is our different. Our different is we believe that our children should be taught to respect themselves and respect others. We believe that our daughters should be composed, moderate, and dress well and function with self-respect in society, not to be taken advantage or exploited by the movies or by the society that tell them it's okay to be naked, it's going to be nude, it's okay to have sex before marriage, it's okay to have children out of wedlock, it's okay for you to marry another woman, it's okay for your son to marry another man. We have issues with that. If that's the way Western society wants to live, good luck. We have no issue, and we have no power to stop it. We are minorities, but we do choose to live the way we want to, and we want to live like that. And we call out that we want Western governments to be more conservative, more socially conservative, and to protect our children and their children from the decadence of movies and people like him. He's a decadent human being. His whole issue is why women are wearing scarves, why men are. I didn't even understand the video. I swear to God, I didn't understand nothing. It's just for clickbait. He probably got himself about $100, $200 out of it. I hope it poisons him.